I speak to you in the name of one God, holy and undivided Trinity. A few days ago on Ash Wednesday, we recalled our own mortality, our own sin, our own neediness. And we began the 40-day season of Lent, a season of reflection, of honesty with ourselves and others, of reorienting our lives toward God, none of which is easy. So some have referred to Lent as a journey through the wilderness, a reference to the story we just heard of Jesus' 40-day wilderness fast and his desert showdown with the devil. While some of us may never have experienced true wilderness, and probably even those who have didn't hang out alone for 40 days, I am guessing we've all had at least one wilderness experience. It might have looked like a hospital waiting room, or like a parking lot where you couldn't find your car after you just lost your job. It might have looked like the inside of your home after your spouse announced that the marriage is over and walked out the door. It may even have been an interior wilderness, a place where you begged for a word from God, any kind of a sign, and all you got back was the wheezing of your own breath. Wildernesses may come in many different shapes and sizes, but the common thread, the one thing all wildernesses have, is that when you look around for the one thing that will save your life, it isn't there. No food, no power, no protection, just sand and a Bible-quoting devil. And try as we might to avoid this wilderness experience, not a single one of us will. Which probably sounds like bad news, but I don't think ultimately it is, because the wilderness, while difficult, can be one of the most reality-based, spirit-filled, life-changing places a person can be. What Jesus found in 40 days of wrestling with the devil was freedom. Freedom from distractions from his true purpose, from hunger for things that sap life rather than give it, from the illusion that God would make all of his choices for him and no wrestling was necessary. The wisdom about the value of wilderness is just about lost to popular American culture and to many Christians. We hear about it once a year, but we tend to reduce it to giving up chocolate or cutting down on how many glasses of wine we drink each week. We do without some things we are perfectly capable of having at any moment, or we take on some things we are capable of avoiding, like a lunch date with someone we're mad at, or a moral inventory. But real wilderness wisdom is a little more than that. It is that anyone who wants to follow Jesus all the way to the cross and beyond needs the kind of clarity and determination that is found only in the wilderness. Lent is an English word meaning spring, not just a reference to the crocuses pushing their way out of the ground in this season before Easter, but also to the greening of the human soul, pruned with repentance, fertilized with fasting, spritzed with self-appraisal, and mulched with prayer. I was at least 25 years old before I started figuring that out, before I learned that Lent was not about punishing myself for being human. And it took me a few more years to figure out that it really wasn't about giving up dark chocolate. I was thrilled to learn that. Or about taking on Pilates. These things are distractions from the real purpose of Lent, which seems to me to be about creating space to clear out from our souls all the dead leaves and nurture the green shoots that we all have within. But if you have spent many Lents avoiding the wilderness, trying out various things, spending a lot of time and or money trying to buy or acquire whatever it takes to grow your soul without seeing any new buds, then perhaps a little spell in the wilderness is worth a try. A few weeks of choosing to live on less, not more, of practicing subtraction instead of addition, not because your regular life is bad, but because you want to make sure it is your real life, the one you long to be living, which can be hard to do when you're living on fast food and busyness. Remember when red lights gave you a minute to just stop and think? Not anymore, right? You've got your little touch panel in your car, so sitting at that red light is a chance to check up on all your messages and emails and call that person. I know people who give up using their cell phones or social media for Lent. I mean, can you imagine? I know other people who give up watching television or shopping or eating while they're standing up. Of course, none of these things would impress people who have spent their whole lives trying to figure out where their next meal is coming from. But in a culture of plenty, a culture obsessed with more, I am impressed with anyone who decides to try and make it without anesthesia for a little while, to give up whatever appliances or habits or substances they use to keep themselves from feeling what it really feels to live the kind of life they are living. I mean, almost everyone uses something. If not anesthesia, then at least a pacifier. Murder mysteries, Facebook, reruns of Downton Abbey, Crate and Barrel catalogs, gin and tonics. These are not awful things, but they are distractions, things to reach for when we're too tired, too sad, or too afraid to enter the wilderness of the present moment, to wonder what it's really about, or who else is in it, or maybe just to make a little bed in the sand and curl up for a while. The problem for most of us is that we cannot go straight from setting down the cell phone to hearing the still small voice of God in the wilderness. If it worked like that, churches would be full and Verizon would be out of business. If it worked like that, Lent would be only about 20 minutes long. What we have instead are 40 whole days for finding out what life is like without our usual painkillers, which is how most of us learn what led us to use them in the first place. Once you take the headphones off, silence can be really loud. Once you turn off the television, a night can get really long. After a while, you can start thinking all of this quiet emptiness, or worse, all this howling wilderness, is a sign of things gone badly wrong. Devil on the loose, huge temptations, no help from the audience, God gone AWOL, not to mention your own spiritual insufficiency to deal with any of these things. But if you remember to breathe, and you say your prayers, then 9 times out of 10, you can make it through the first night in the wilderness with no extra bread, power, or protection. You can get used to the sound of your own heart beating and whatever it is that's yipping out there. You may even be able to sleep a little while and wake up gladder to be alive than you can remember being for a long time. So there are 36 days to go. So don't count. Take it one day at a time. After you've reached for your pacifier a few times and remembered it's not there, not because someone stole it from you, but because you made a conscious decision to give it up, then you may discover a whole new level of conversation with yourself. Are you hungry? I'm starving. Well, what's wrong with that? Are you dying? Well, maybe. Well, no. Can you stand being hungry for a little while longer? I guess so. Okay, so what else? Are you lonely? Yes, I am. I'm terribly lonely. Well, what's wrong with being alone? Will it kill you? I don't like it. It's not what I asked. Can you live through it? Probably not, but I'll try. Our minds are geniuses at telling us that losing our pacifiers is going to kill us, but it's almost never true. All that's going to happen is that we're going to suck air for a while, then we're going to hiccup, then we're going to look around and see things without that pink plastic circle under our noses, which is going to turn out to be a good thing both for us and for everyone else in our lives. But it would be a mistake for me to try and describe your wilderness experience. Only you can do that, because only you know what devils have your number. All I know for sure is that a voluntary trip to the desert this Lent is a great way to practice getting free of those devils for life. Not only because it is where you lose your appetite for things that cannot save you, but also because it's where you learn to trust the spirit that led you there to lead you out again. May it be so.